Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Etisalat Digital's second webinar series. If this is your second time joining us today, welcome again. We have two gentlemen joining me today from Help AG. Help AG is the cybersecurity arm of Etisalat Digital, providing businesses across the Middle East with tailored information security solutions that addresses their diverse requirements, enabling them to evolve securely with a competitive edge. Today's webinar is definitely a hot topic, and that is to revamp your cyber resilience as you expand your digital footprint. It's without a doubt that COVID-19 has accelerated digital transformation across many sectors. However, as we expand into the digital space, the more we expose ourselves to risk, cyber threats, and many more challenges. And this is exactly what we'll be discussing in today's webinar. Now, to address these challenges, we have two veterans from the security industry. Let me introduce to you our first speaker, Dr. Alex, a PhD holder in computer science, currently serves as a VP in business development at Help AG. Our second speaker today is Kamran Ahsan, brings over 20 years of professional experience in cybersecurity. He is currently the Chief Marketing and International Business Officer at Help AG. Now, just a heads up, in case you have any questions, and if you're joining us from YouTube or LinkedIn, please ask us any questions, and we will be having a separate Q&A session right at the end. Over to you, Dr. Alex and Kamran.
Thank you, Noura. Welcome, everyone. I'm very happy to see that we have a lot of people that joined us through LinkedIn and other platforms, over 500 people. It means that what we're talking about today, and that is cyber resilience in the wake of digital transformation, is something that's relevant to the society, that's relevant to you as our clients. On the next slide, we will see a statement around how extraordinary situations require extraordinary measures. So no, we are not talking today about the fact that your presenter is wearing a mask, which would be unimaginable just 6 months back, or that streets are less busy, malls have less people. We are talking about the changes in the business, how your businesses needed to adapt, to become more agile, to transform in order to leverage the technology and enable work from home or work from anywhere, launching of online services, e-learning, e-health, all of the fantastic things that you as businesses are doing to conquer the challenge that COVID has brought to all of us. If we go to the next slide, we'll see a couple of statistics that show us that the cyber criminals, the hacktivists, they have taken note of these changes, of the transformation, of the adoption of the cloud, work from home, remote workforce, and they're trying to exploit this. Just in these two simple statistics, we can see that there is hundreds of thousands of false or fake web addresses out there that are trying to lure your customers and your employees into disclosing their private or your company information. Similarly, we can see a sharp rise in phishing emails in relation to COVID. Next slide will show us that this is not a false alarm. People, your employees, are actually falling prey for this. So we can say that based on the research that was done by one of our leading partners, Proofpoint, about 1/5 to 1/4 of your employees either do click on that malicious link, do open the phishing email, do leak the information either on purpose or without knowing that they're doing business damage. And we also have a very large number of employees that are either not having the right awareness and then not having the right passwords, not having the right access control. This brings risk to your organization, and we would like to take a look at how these risks can be addressed while still enabling you to use the technology to the best. Next slide, please. we will be looking here at the most affected sectors today. At the bottom of the slide, you will see we have the usual suspects. If you are working in these sectors, you already know that you are a very visible target for cyber criminals. It's because of the high monetary reward or high bragging rights for the activists. We have finance and banking, public safety and security, and we have energy and utility as very valuable prizes for the cyber criminals. On the other hand, we have some of the sectors that are under attack specifically because they are undergoing dramatic change because of COVID, not COVID itself, but the change in the business. If we look at education sector did fantastic in these circumstances. They've started delivering a lot of content online. They're using multiple services, some of them cloud-based, some of them open source, some of them free. But that has created a complicated landscape that now attackers are trying to use. Similar situation is with healthcare. Similar situation is in the aviation sector. We also have, very interestingly, a large increase in attacks towards the cloud providers, service providers, data center providers themselves. And the reason for that is you as a client are moving towards these services and the attackers are simply following you. So if you are in these sectors, be extra vigilant and make sure that you review your cyber resiliency plans, you talk to your trusted advisors, including HelpAG and Etisalat Digital, and also you discuss this with your CFO or budgeting departments because extra efforts are required. In the next two slides, we will be giving you a high-level blueprint or a recipe. I'm not a medical doctor, but I am a PhD holder in cybersecurity, so I like to think that I can advise on these recipes. So first, let's look on cybersecurity challenges translated into technology drivers. We have clear drivers around remote distributed workforce, closely connected to secure connectivity for your clients, secure connectivity for your employees, and all of that either to your data center or to the cloud, or a hybrid approach that we see a lot in these days. We have very fast acceleration of cloud adoption. I think that if we say that there are some positive aspects that came out of the COVID, especially in this region and in the UAE, is faster adoption of technology, digital transformation, and the cloud. These are really the business enablers. However, on the other side, we have this explosion of cyber attacks, and we have increased risks for data security and data privacy. So how do we balance those two? And how do we continue to leverage technology without falling prey to the attackers? On the next slide, we have the actual recipe in the eyes of our own, based on research done by our partners as well. Let's start with the first pair, and that is zero trust, network access, and SASE. So when your employees are moving towards work from home, work from anywhere, the whole landscape is changing. You need to apply a zero trust approach. It means trust no man, trust no woman, no employee, trust no device. And there are many solutions that address these challenges in terms of network access. SASE is a new term, and without digging very deeply into the technology nitty-gritties, it is a step ahead on top of the zero trust network access, and enables you to control access to the cloud, the concept of CASB, the concepts of firewall as a service. We are seeing a great adoption of both of these solution areas, and adoption is because these bring value to the end clients. The second pair is a result of switching the threat vector towards the identity, towards the endpoint. Once you migrate majority of your services towards cloud or other service providers, in-country service providers such as Etisalat, the attackers try to go in via the weakest link, which can be the identity of a person or an endpoint. So please make sure that you review your endpoint protections. This needs to be next generation protection. It needs to also include detection and response capabilities so that you can actually act when you see that something bad is happening on an endpoint. And review your identity and access management solutions. I would say multi-factor authentication, single sign-on are definitely something that's a must today, but organizations need to look a step further into things like automated provisioning and deprovisioning of identities, which is very relevant when you start using multiple services, some on cloud, some on the in your data center. For the companies that are doing or having a growing business, they will be employing people, and this is a very important aspect for onboarding. Unfortunately, there will be companies that are reshaping and that will be letting go certain number of their employees, unfortunately, but these solutions are very important to manage the identity during that offboarding process. We've talked already about rise in the phishing attacks. Email security remains very important pillar of your cybersecurity program that you really must look into it. The changes in the way you operate your business, the fact that you are having either a less control or different types of control towards your employees who are working from home means that insider threat protection is another area that needs to be looked at. And here we are not talking about only traditional approaches in terms of checking compliance to certain policies. We're also talking about advanced solutions such as applying user behavior analytics and monitoring to show you when there is a probable insider attack. The next subject that I want to discuss about is cybersecurity as a service. It's a growing area. It's a fastest growing area for us as a service and solution provider, and the reasons are twofold. On one side, we have a big gap in the skills, and that gap is just worsened by the COVID situation, inability to get the right resources on board from abroad. On the other hand, we have a situation where organizations such as yours have invested in a lot of solutions and technologies, but at times they're struggling getting the value out of this. So when you consume cybersecurity as a service, then your trusted provider takes care of extracting that value through proper configuration, health checks, optimizations, and fine-tuning. Last but not least, we are clearly seeing growth in cybersecurity budgets in the light of COVID and the digital transformation that is now at large. If you haven't had increase in your budget, do talk to your CFO. Make sure that within your organization, cybersecurity is truly seen as an enabler, because now more than ever, it does enable organizations to move faster, be agile, and stay on the top of the market. Next slide is the background for introduction to what Kamran we'll be talking about. Kamran is again our Chief Marketing and International Business Officer with tons of experience in cybersecurity, specifically in this region, and he will be telling us how do we give a boost to the cyber immune system. Thank you everyone, and see you at the Q&A session. Over to you, Karen.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon and good day to all those who have logged in from some other parts of the world. Absolute pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, honor, and I would like to welcome you again on behalf of Etisalat Digital and Help AG in this exciting discussion on cybersecurity. So Alex has summed it well. He talked about the various aspects of the COVID-19 associated cybersecurity situations that we have been witnessing. And the most important thing that he's talked about is the new reality, whereby we're going to be talking about the cyber system and how we can increase or boost up the immunity system. So if you go to the next slide, please. So what is happening these days is before COVID, BC, we were talking about the resilience. We were talking about that how can we induct resilience in the system. But the challenge these days is because of these COVID-19 situations is that this situation has introduced multiple variables and making this security equation more complex. Has become a hard problem to resolve in terms of complexity. But the more important point for us is that instead of adding resilience to it, it is all the more important for us to go back into the system and fine tune, redefine, and rediscover those aspects, those new variants that has been introduced into the systems in the wake of new normal. So what Alex has defined, if you go to the next slide, so what Alex has defined is the industry specific trends which have been dominating our lives for the last 3 months. Our kids are e-learning. We are consulting doctors through telemedicine systems, and the entire ecosystem is built across that. Retail and banking, they have gone big time online. In fact, multiple channels, in fact, omni-channels. And one of the statistics from the World Economic Forum says that we have achieved the 10-year growth target in the last 3 months in the name of replacement of physical channels by e-channels. So this is the type of situation that we have been talking about. If you move on, then we have seen that as usual in this part of the world, government is leading the pack. Government is the one who is based upon the previous concept of 24/7 online, all the systems is constantly increasing the ease and convenience for residents, visitors, and citizens. But the most important aspect, the common component, is primarily remote working. We all are part of it. I'm also a remote worker for the last 3 months. And the most important aspect into it, if you do the double click, is primarily remote collaboration. Now, this webinar is one of those testaments of remote collaboration. But what is happening is that this complexity is compelling us into to go back into the cyber immune system. And if I were to define that cyber immune system, ladies and gentlemen, then I would identify these 4 quadrants, which you're going to see soon. Yeah, so this is our cyber immune system. And I think that you can easily relate to that. 4 components, 4 parts. The first one is a resilience. Resilience plan act as the brain of the system. The second part is security layout, which is primarily the body of this immune system. The third thing is where heart is pumping blood across the whole body. And this is what we call operations or the engine of the system. The fourth quadrant is primarily support and maintenance. We do yoga, meditation, prayers, exercises, stretching, or whatnot to make our bodies fit for the purpose. And this is exactly what we have to do. And we have been doing it as part of support to support this entire immunity system. But the most important thing is that what has been changed. Now, in the next 4 slides, I'm not going to give you a solution. I'm not going to define the specification of that, specialized silver bullet. But what we intend to do in the next 4 slides is to invoke your specific points as part of your thought process to stimulate that what needs to be done as part of your respective responsibilities as being security professionals in your respective organization. So let's take a stab on each one of those building blocks. The first block is resilience plan and management. Now, as Help AG, we firmly believe that in order to address these complexity which has been occurring because of COVID-19, and probably in future as well, with just like COVID-19 like situations, absolutely important that we integrate the risk management and business continuity management approaches together. And what do you mean by that? It means that when you perform a risk assessment, you normally identify the top 5 critical risks, and then you do a risk treatment plan. At that point, if that risk treatment plan is correlated with the business impact assessments, then this is the point where you're going to be identifying that if these risks occur in your business environment, then what is going to be the business impact? So take a look at these 6 pointers here. Let's talk about a telehealth application rolled out 2 months ago in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. And what if that telehealth application or the entire system associated with it is not available for the next 2 hours? And top of that, since we have rolled out that application in a haste, then are we sure that that specific code of that mobile application is prone to all those known exploits and all those vulnerabilities? Are we sure of that? And the third aspect is this, that is this entire system is compliant with ADIX, which is Abu Dhabi Healthcare Information and Cybersecurity Standards. And if you do a double click, the most important aspect as part of this whole ecosystem of telehealthcare is about the awareness. Salute and kudos to all those telehealth workers, frontliners, guys at the back end, in the mid-level, and they have been under tremendous pressure mentally and physically. But are we sure that are we providing them right level of cybersecurity education? Because these guys have been constantly utilizing those digital channels as part of their ongoing activities. Most important thing that we need to consider as part of resilience plan. And the next point is that are we considering performing the mock drills of those new scenarios which we have just introduced as part of our resilience plan? Absolutely important. Just like the way we are doing fire drills as part of the evacuation plan, absolutely important moving forward for all sorts of organizations that as part of the resilience plan, they need to perform these mock drills. And last but not the least, this is the point from the other side of the fence. Here's a scenario. So what if those personal health records are exfiltrated from the system and being found in the dark deep web up for sale? Now, this is the most important point again, because this is going to be impacting your branding, your imaging, your reputation. And if these exploits or those records are going to be exploited, then you're going to see a lot of revenue leakage, false claims on the insurance organizations and companies. So these are the pointers, ladies and gentlemen, that we would like you to consider as part of building your resilience plan, where risk management and business continuity management are going to be converging. So if you go to the next slide, which is the second part of our immunity system for cyber, here we are talking about the security layout. This is the transformation of the plan into the real things happening on the ground. And the most important aspect, which is the new variant in this new normal, is teleworking. So all those teleworkers, including myself, so if I take my own example, now from the comfort of my home and from the comfort of my own personal device, I have been accessing the most critical applications somewhere there in the private clouds of my organization. I have been accessing some public cloud-based applications to do some other stuff. I've also been accessing some of the legacy applications because I need to do some of the administrative stuff as well. So these are 3 different channels and variants, and I've been doing it through my own personal devices. The most important thing, the most important question, which is going to be asked is that how can security officers in this scenario make sure that there is a consistent deployment of security policies, irrespective of my location, irrespective of how I'm trying to access these applications as part of my daily activities? $1 million question. And the most important thing that we have also learned that endpoint has gained focus. It is under the spotlight. That is a new focus. Endpoint security has gained grounds just because of new variants. And then we can talk also about those new applications that we have introduced as part of the system. Are we actually securing them? All those controls that we have deployed as part of this new security layout, are these controls aligned with your local regulatory requirements or international standards? And once you deploy the entire scheme of things, keeping in view that your defense mechanisms are right at the proper places, absolutely important for all of us to do the red teaming thing, offensive security. And these kind of exercise will make sure that your defensive mechanisms are impenetrable. And these exercises should also include the social engineering aspects. We have just witnessed the famous Twitter hacks, and the starting point was social engineering. The next slide talks about the third building block. And that is my personal favorite, ladies and gentlemen, because this slide is talking about the operations for detection and response. So all those services which your organization is going to be leveraging from some specific security operations centers, the main objective of security operations center is to detect any abnormal behavior, any abnormal traffic, any abnormal pattern, any abnormal signature. And then based upon that, there has to be an incident response. The interesting thing happens as part of this COVID-19 is that some of the abnormal behaviors have become abnormal because I am now accessing all these applications from the comfort of my home. So that traffic pattern has gone different. So absolutely important again as part of this third building block that we need to redefine, re-baseline our traffic patterns. And all those patterns that we are being correlated as part of Security Operations Center to generate alerts if something goes wrong. And of course, that 24/7 monitoring and 24/7 security device management is going to remain our mantra as part of the detection and response. And the most important thing, again, and I've touched upon this aspect as part of the first building block, is about the dark deep web findings. Because since we are going digital, we have gone digital. Microsoft had just said yesterday that we have gone digital worth of 2 years in the last 2 months. What does it mean for us from cybersecurity perspective? It means that the attack surface is increased because we have gone digital. The more we go digital, the more we are trying to expand our footprint somewhere in the cyber world, which is beyond our control. So these things include our branding, our reputation, our images, our counterfeit products, which might be sold somewhere on those stores. Talking about digital identities, fake domains, typo-squatting domains, fake website, campaigns against you because you are a high-profile organization, some specified campaigns being virtually designed in dark deep web. So absolutely important that we need to understand what's been cooking against us in the dark deep web, because those is going to be impacting a lot as far as compared to our own internal applications and infrastructure, whereby we can exercise control on. And the last 2 pointers are the gist of this entire discussion, if you ask me. Because the fourth point says that is your incident response time aligned with your business resilience plan that you've identified as part of your business impact assessment? If the answer is yes, I would say bingo to you. And the last point here again is that healthcare application that we talked about in the first block, are we able to bring it back business as usual within 2 hours? If the answer is yes, I think we have got the deal. The next slide will talk about all those support services and proactive checks. And I've built the analogy of yoga, meditation, exercises, stretching, whatnot, marathon runs, whereby you try to keep your body in shape. And that is absolutely important. And it starts with smaller things like network availability, heartbeats of the network, CPU utilization, memory aspects. It goes to RMAs because during COVID-19, we have observed a lot of organizations in search of replacement of hardware. Absolutely important. These kind of services are going to remain available in these situations where the movements are restricted. And then the third important aspect is that since you have introduced many changes in your existing immunity system, then how you are doing it from the configuration perspective. Are you locking those configurations down in line with the benchmarks that you believe in as part of your security policies, for example? How are you going to be doing the change management? Because this is going to be the entire ongoing things. You will keep adding or deleting new things as part of this immunity system. So absolutely important that we perform those changes. And once we perform them, those changes should be aligned with our policies. Now, at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, since we have discussed all the four quadrants and the respective relevant points or the new variants as part of the new normal, I think we are in that pretty much good shape to go back and assess our respective systems from cyber immunity perspective and try to revive and exercise all these recommendations that we have just discussed. Now, at this point, we need to analyze at how Help AG is going to be helping you or gearing itself in terms of these to boosting up your immunity system. So as the cybersecurity arm of Etisalat Digital and serving more than 500 customers in this region as a trusted partner, we are fully geared to address and to boost up your cyber immunity system. World-class analysts from the penetration testing and red teaming exercises purposes who have been involved in the discovery of 120 plus zero-day vulnerabilities. And these guys have full capability to penetrate your defensive mechanism as part of your red teaming, which we have discussed at the second part of a second building block of security layouts. And the same thing applies to our consultants. World-class consultants certified from various aspects of security, currently been involved in defining resilience plan with a variety of customers, as we discussed as part of the first building block. We have got certified professional services implementation engineers who can always deploy that specific layout, making sure that whatever deployments they are making is aligned with security best practices and standards. We are running perhaps one of the biggest security operations centers in the region, 24/7 security monitoring, device management, incident response, as if that the heart is pumping blood across the whole body of the cyber immunity system. Detection and response features and some of the aspects are managed. We have been writing playbooks now, trying to automate those situations whereby we can always providing them back to our customers' efficiencies. And last but not the least, we have been running one of the unique support assistance center on behalf of the dominant technologies in this region. It's one of its kind. Until date, ladies and gentlemen, we have almost addressed 60,000 support cases on behalf of our 500 plus customers. So the last slide of my discussion, whereby I would like to wrap it up, because the logical question is that whatever we have discussed so far, this cyber immunity system and boosting up things, how can we make this entire system sustainable? And that is also a very important question, because this, if we are able to address this approach here, and if you all agree to it, we will take ourselves above the clouds when it rains, because it is not only about the COVID-19, it's about the near future that we get to see similar situations. So how can we up for it? How can we gear ourselves for it? So the first thing that we have observed, that resilience plan, which is the brain of the whole immunity system, has given rise to the security layout. So that plan has to be transformed into a workable, meaningful solution as a physical layout. And then this layout actually invokes the operations and support functions of that immunity system. And we have discussed all these parts of there. And this is where you come into that steady state operations. At the same time, you encounter COVID-19 like situations, and you start managing those changes. And those changes will also again invoke back to security layout that what changes should be required as part of your blueprint. And then once you make all these changes as part of your security layout, I think this layout quadrant needs to provide feedback back to the resilience plan. And this is where we can see a change in the management of the resilience plan. And this way, this completes the loop. This is a closed loop system, and this will remain going forever as far as those changes are being made and these feedback mechanisms are there. So with this note, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for your time. I hope this entire discussion, right from the context development, talking about the basic building blocks of cyber immune system and how can we boost up that immunity makes relevant to you. So thank you very much. And I think we are up for Q&A. So back to Noura. Thank you.
For that insightful session. I really found it particularly interesting in how you described an organization's security as an immune system. Really, just like a disease, companies need to be ready to strengthen their immune system. They need to be ready to avoid the sickness and from all these attacks and help with keep building resiliency and sustain their immune system. Now, moving on to the Q&A section, thank you everyone for your engagement. We've received a lot of questions. One of the questions that keep coming back from our audience is, what should be a good starting point for boosting a cyber immune system?
Yeah, thank you, Noura. Alex, if you don't mind, I can take this question, and I would like to repeat this question as well. So I guess for the benefit of the audience, the question is that what should be starting point of boosting up the immunity of the system? A very logical question, ladies and gentlemen. And I think the starting point is that if you are able to do an as-is assessment, a quick and dirty exercise, then I think you get to know the startup of this whole thread. The starting point primarily should be the business resilience plan, whereby you chalk out, you plan out all those new variants in the in the wake of new normal. And this is where you start your activity of analyzing the second building block, the third building block, and the fourth building block. And how can you build that entire closed loop of systems? So business resilience plan is the answer. Some of the companies probably may adopt the bottom-up approach, coming from the fourth quadrant to up. That can also be acceptable. So I think it depends upon the maturity of the organization. It depends upon how you would like to treat this entire thing. But if you ask me, I mean, my best guess against this question is the business resilience plan.
Definitely. Now, this question goes to Dr. Alex. Under the prevailing circumstances, do you think it's a matter of risk related to people, or is it more on the processes and technologies?
Yeah, thank you, Noura. Just to repeat the question again for the audience, that we are having slight technical challenges. It does happen, but we have a resiliency plan. So the question is, under the prevailing circumstances, do we think that it's a matter of risk related to people more than procedures and technologies? The answer is no. It is all three angles of the same cybersecurity triangle. We need to keep assessing and addressing the people aspect, the procedures aspect, the processes aspect, and the technology aspect, as all of these are very much interlinked. So if we talk about, for example, insider threat management solution, it's impossible to look at only people aspect without putting the right processes in place, setting the policies that would trigger certain incidents, and also having the right technology to support those use cases. What we can say is that definitely the attack vectors are shifting towards people, and that people are sometimes the weakest link. They can also be the strongest link, and that's where organizations need to look at into running their awareness campaigns, making sure that everyone knows what are the dangers out there and not falling prey to the attackers. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you very much. And I hope everyone can hear me back. I guess we had a little glitch. So the last question, and before we end the Q&A session, is, what is that one thing that you would advise to CISOs under the prevailing conditions? And I think this is $1 million question to both of you.
Alex, can I take that if you allow me?
I'll allow you to take a first shot, but I wanted to answer it from my angle as well. Go ahead, Cameron.
Yeah, I think that one thing that I would like to address at this point in time, again, is I want to make it more relevant because we have been talking about the just discussed the immunity system. They have to be strategists. They have to act like a diplomat as well, sometimes to convince and lobby it properly within the organization. They have to understand the technicalities of the new technologies coming in. They have to understand the governance, risk, and compliance. So, but if you ask me at this point in time, especially these COVID-19 situations, and the kind of discussions we had, I would say that change management is the way to go. So if they are able to understand the change, if they are able to manage the change, if they're able to influence the change within the organization and manage it properly, I think this is, I would say again, bingo.
Yeah. So from my side, the advice that I would give to a CISO is that this time of change can be looked at as a challenge or as an opportunity. So I would like to advise CISOs to look at it as an opportunity to relook how they can be part of the digital transformation, how they can continue adding value to their business. On the other hand, I do understand that organizations will be under budget pressures. So there, you can also be the hero of your organizations through relooking at consolidating of your cybersecurity estate. And that's where someone like us, as a trusted advisor, can help, because any given organization has anywhere between 20 and 80 vendors in their ecosystem, and often there is room for consolidation. There is a room for getting better value through less investments. And that's something that I believe now presents itself as an opportunity in this time of change, and can help CISOs deliver better value to their organizations. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alex. Unfortunately, we've reached the end of this webinar. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I honestly had a great time with both of you. Just to let our audience know that they could always reach out to us in case we can come back to them today at our email, @etisalat.digital@etisalat.ae. We have more webinars coming up during the next week, so please stay tuned and follow us on our LinkedIn page at Etisalat Digital. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you. Thanks a lot.